TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channel, folks. We have a special guest, a gentleman who's been on the channel a couple of times in the past with us. And we do especially look forward to him because he's on the edge of Melbourne. John ZD351. Good to see you, brother.
Yay!
Oh, jeez, don't do that to me, man. Don't do that to me. Hello, everyone. Hello to my friends in the chat. I'm going to promise to try and do my best not to ignore the chat like I usually do when I'm stuck on the screen here.
Oh, look, if
Don't
you
worry,
do, it's fine.
You concentrate. I'll do the chat, John. It's fine.
Yeah.
No worries.
Nah, the chat's where it's at. I want to be in the chat.
Yeah. I'm sure the chat will be okay today, mate. But it's a pleasure, though, John, to have you. I think you've been on at least, this might be your fourth or fifth time you've been on the channel, I'm sure.
It's been my second ranking, but I've jumped in on a sort of like the Christmas shows and the Eddie Van Halen tributes and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's more than a couple. So no, we appreciate you jumping on, talking about this artist with the Rock Professor. We want to do a special shout out before we go live. We're going to start the show pretty quickly, folks. Faster than we probably normally would do in the past, but we want to do a special shout out to Brad. We're not assuming that he's going to be watching anything that we do over the next 7 weeks, but it would be remiss of us, Simon, if we didn't pass on our thoughts to our brother who's in the UK, arrived safely, and the messages we got was that he's tired but excited. Simon.
I'm appalled by the fact that he hasn't come on the show. I mean, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. What else is he going to be doing? He thinks it's 8 o'clock at night, so he should be well. I don't know.
You do.
I think it's slacking, frankly. No, and hopefully I can catch up with him this week. I've got to work out my diaries a bit and faff about, but hopefully I can catch up with him this week, which would be brilliant.
Fantastic.
I know that if I was flying to London, I would have been sleeping already for 24 hours. That's all I do on planes. So I'd be well rested and I'd be knocking on your door.
Raring to go.
Raring to go, John.
That's it.
But we do look forward to doing something with him, I'm sure, over the next 7 weeks. He has promised that he'd at least fire something through to us to put up on the channel, if not come on live. So, again, we invite you, if you haven't already, and if you are watching on a replay, if you're one of the people that watches us after we go live, please hit that notification button if you want to be up to date with any shows that we do with Brad while he's in the UK. That would be great. We also have Ellen in the chat, and she's keeping things, Rock Professor, she's keeping an eye on things in Melbourne, we understand, isn't she?
Yes, good. She's got it all under control in Melbourne, thankfully. Some things should be kept constant. Ellen's one of them.
We were lucky to have her pop on and hang out with us a little bit last week, and we never passed on. We didn't get a chance, Ellen, to pass on, even though we knew this, and I think we have mentioned it to you. But we want to at least again, while I remember, pass on our condolences for you and your husband and the passing of your pet. We all know what dogs mean to people who love dogs and how important they are in family situations. So our condolences on you missing your dog. We saw him on the show. He was on the show, Simon, wasn't he? He came on one.
Yes. Once. Yeah. It's a dog-friendly show. See, that pedal show has a dog. We've got two, or we had two.
So guys, you know the format of the show. So obviously John is the guest host. He's going to introduce the album soon. The Rock Professor is going to give us a quick rundown on the gig and then do a shout out to you. Then John will do the intro for the album and then kick off the rankings. And we'll see where we are at 2 hours.
Yeah. Yes. Well, as you all know, 2 Sundays ago, I went to see Bruce Springsteen in Cardiff. His first first European gig back after his peptic ulcers incident in the autumn, and I clearly I have I'm wearing. I'm going to stand up. I'm wearing the merch, of course, with the purchased at vast expense, or £40, whichever's the best. But I also, just for a laugh, because these things come up on Facebook, I got one of these as well. It's a mug with the set list on it.
I was there.
Which is ridiculous, but fun. But nevertheless, I also, John knows this, but and Andrew, you knows, but thank you, Greg. I also have ordered from mugs.net the Cardiff show, so I'm going to get on CD. So I've actually ordered. I can get a live, a couple of CDs worth of the show I went to, which I think is brilliant. I think that's he releases lots of the shows through mugs.net. Yes, that's right, nugs. So I saw that was on sale, so I went. It's only for 15 quid or something, so it's a bit of postage and packaging, but so 15 quid for a couple of CDs. I thought that would be good fun to have.
Have you had any of those before?
I've got a couple of those, yeah, John. I've got one.
And the good thing is that they're, obviously come from the source. They're great. They're about as good as the best bootlegs, and they're they're. I know the ones that I was getting from the last tour that he came to Australia, they were getting released within a day or two, and of the gigs, and they were great.
Yeah, this is nugs.net. But it's like the official live Bruce Springsteen thing. But again, it's like a pretty plain cardboard thing with a nice. This is opposite, because this is from the Roxy in 1978. So this is part of the Darkness tour, which I have 2 or 3. I have 4 actually. But so yeah, this is from July the 7th, 1978. I would have been 19 and 364 days. So if he goes over midnight, he's playing on my birthday. So that's fantastic. But they're really good. I think this is a really good idea. I think this is a great marketing idea. I think that releasing your shows, it's a kind of. I know the Grateful Dead used to allow you to tape it, but this is like proper. I know Bob Clearmountain mixed some of these. I don't know if he does them all, but certainly they're good quality, and and I think they're a lovely memento of shows you went to, or if you didn't go to shows and you want to particularly. Some of them are quite famous, aren't they, John? The Winterland, the Agora Ballroom stuff.
Yeah.
It's quite well known.
Yeah, a lot of the shows in '78 were broadcast on the radio, so a lot of the bootlegs came from pretty good sources.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something special about having the gig you went to. Remember back in the day, my first ever concert when I was about 16, 17 was back in 1985 when I saw Bruce play at the Melbourne Showgrounds on the Born in the USA tour. And we didn't have the luxury of, having a show pop up for order on the internet back then. And it took me about a year, but I managed to get a cassette tape that was a recording of someone that recorded the show. So yeah, that was the first thing that I had of having like my own personal bootleg of a show that I went to, and it's great to be able to relive something like that.
Yeah, I also got this as well, John. No,
yes,
this is weird because it's an official release, but it's because in Europe they have this kind of rule that if it's been on the radio, it can be released as an album. You can release it legitimately. So clearly, this is a Cleveland broadcast from the Agora Ballroom in '78. So so managed to get it from Amazon. So that's pretty cool. Nice package. But,
yeah. Well, I'll let everyone know that a little while ago I sent screenshots of all these bootlegs and official release recordings that I had on my iTunes to Simon and saying, "Hey, mate, you want a copy of this? You want a copy of it?" So yeah. And a lot of times you just want to hear the live versions and hear how they've been done differently. And the 78 tour definitely had some great stuff with the extended intro to Prove It All Night and the extended outro of Backstreets, which gave us the early version of what became Drive All Night from the River. So there's some great stuff to listen to.
But as I say, I'm really impressed by that as a sort of marketing tool, as a kind of a way for fans to get the gigs that they went to kind of officially, and the money goes to the artist, doesn't it? I mean, I know Bruce Springsteen don't particularly need the money, but I think that's a different argument. But I think that if you can do it, then it works really well, and there are lots of them. Lots and lots of them. I don't know if maybe in a break I'll have a look and see if the Melbourne one's on there, John. But it's. I mean, he played 3 hours, 29 songs. His usual eclectic mix. He started off with "So Young and in Love," which is an outtake from I think Born to Run, or this one. But it's been only, and he doesn't hardly played it at all live, but. So he started off with that, which is quite a bold move, if you ask me. It was on tracks, wasn't it? But it wasn't. Which is Outtakes from Darkness. But but I mean, he did Lonesome Day, Prove It All Night, Spirits in the Night, Hungry Heart, of course. All that stuff. My City Ruins. But he was in. The band were brilliant. He was in fine voice as well. I mean, always the great fear of 74. Is the voice about to give out or whatever, But no, he's in really good voice. As I say, he did 3 hours straight off, and he was. It was unexpectedly quite moving in places as well. Quite hard to do if you're in a crowd of 60,000 people. But some of the songs, I mean, especially the last one, which is from the letter, "I'll See You in My Dreams," is very moving. Just plays it solo on acoustic guitar. And if you've ever lost anyone recently, like I have with my mum, it hits home brilliantly as a
definitely.
But he also did Ghosts as well, which is another song about he's the last surviving member of the Castiles, and he talks movingly about the guy who died. But so it was unexpectedly sort of moving as well, which is fantastic. As I say, and quite difficult to do in an arena show.
It's good if you can reach people at the back of a big hall like that.
Yeah. Well, if anyone can, Bruce can. as a thing. But and started off with finish off with great versions of Twist and Shout, 10th Avenue Freeze Out. Where he does the roll call and all of that. All of this kind of getting into that Southern preacher style thing, which is quite fun as well. But he goes down. He spends a lot of time interacting with the crowd at the front and things, giving out picks and harmonicas and stuff to kids. Yeah, so. It was fantastic. Hats off to the staff at the Principality Stadium in Cardiff. They were fantastic. Old hobbling me turning up with hobbling too. They were really nice to me and kind of were unfailingly helpful and stuff. So hats off to them as well. I'm sure I don't get many shout outs.
Stuff.
They were great. It was really good. So fantastic. So I'm well geared up for this for weeks of Bruce Springsteen.
One of the things I should have checked. So how many Darkness songs did we get in Cardiff? Check your mug.
Hold on. We got Prove It All Night, of course. Badlands. He did If I Was a Priest as well, which is quite unusual.
Yeah, that was. I had a few friends at that show, and they were doing backflips over here and
that. So 2, John. I think he did, as I say, he did Prove It All Night, and he did Badlands. Of course, he did Because the Night as well, which is it's not on there, but it's of that era and stuff. But
we'll call it an honorary track.
Yeah. So but stuff from he did Night Shift by the Commodores as well from his soul album. Was really good. Born in the USA, of course. Born in the USA into Born to Run. There you are. Which is, if you've got them, you could do them together. That's pretty classy stuff. But Yeah, I mean, I think he changes them around a lot from from night to night.
Well, actually,
Right.
this tour, which is a continuation, he's had a break from when he got sick from last year, but the set list has been a lot more static than what it has been in the past. I know seeing him on tours in 2003, 2013, and 14 and 17. Those first three tours, I saw multiple shows, and it was really a different set list every night. The 2017 tour that he did, he was pretty much the same set list with a bracket of 4 songs in the middle that he'd swap around. And I noticed that he's definitely got a story to tell this tour, so he's been keeping a very similar framework. But it does look like that just going on the Cardiff show, and I haven't checked the most recent set list if he's done any other shows yet.
He's done. He's been doing them in Ireland. He's been done 3 or 4 shows in Ireland. He has been changing it around a bit.
Yeah, so that's always good. I remember by the time of my 5th show on the 2017 tour, I was a bit sort of like, I actually did something that I thought I would never do, and I left the show early because it was 2 hours from home, and I'd already seen the show 4 times, and I was predicting
it was pretty much the same show, was it? Oh.
Yeah, so I kind of walked out during Born to Run and decided to beat the traffic home, because 2 years prior I'd got stuck in that car park for an extra hour before I was able to get on the road. So
But
always good to see him changing it up.
Yeah, he has been changing up, and clearly he takes requests from the audience and things as well, which is quite fun.
Never took my sign, the prick.
He didn't take mine either, but I was way back and up on the side, so he wouldn't have seen it.
One time I didn't have a sign. I wrote "Incident on 57th Street" on my arm because I was right on the rail and I kept holding it up, but
he didn't do it.
Nah.
No. Oh well. So you
Andrew's being politely quiet there, but he's saying, "Come on, boys, get on with it. Get on with it." He's worried that we're going to go over our 2-hour mark. He knows that I know that I can waffle on a bit.
He just. We've got to have our starters, haven't
we? Thank you, John. You're right. You're right. Thank you for being time conscious of what's ahead of us. But no, I appreciate it. Thank you, Simon, for the intro on the gig. You want to do a shout out? We've got 12 people watching, and then we'll get John to start off the rankings.
Yeah. Well, John's at D351 in both 2 places today. Arvin, good morning, Arvin. Ellen, good morning, Ellen. Thanks for still being here. Gret Zeppelin. We've got Greg Roberts-Tune, who's out walking. Very nice. It's a beautiful day here in the UK. Ellen, Hugh, Arvin, Gretch. I think that's everyone that's made a comment by the looks of things. So some people watching without making a comment. Make a comment and I'll give you a shout out. But lovely to see you all. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, I'd like to also say hi to all my friends in the chat where I normally am. I'm not typing hello back, but my love to you all.
Fantastic. Awesome. Brilliant. All right, John, you've watched a lot of these shows. You know what the intro's about. So it's your opportunity to give us an introduction to the album for us. And then we'll talk briefly about our own experiences, and then you'll kick off with the rankings.
Sure. Well, friends, chat family, children of all ages, welcome to the first Bruce Springsteen ranking on the show. We've threatened it a few times, and the boys surprised me last week telling me that I'll be on this week, but I didn't need much prompting. So I thought that we'd have to start with either or, the 2 sort of like mainstays of Bruce's early career, being Born to Run or Darkness on the Edge of Time. Stuff that up. Darkness on the Edge of Town. Got the teeth fixed. Now the tongue doesn't work. How's that? And yeah, that's it. And of course, I thought I'd leave it to the professor to make the final decision. And of course, he chose his favorite album, which I thought he would. So, and luckily I don't have a Born to Run T-shirt, so luckily he chose that one. But
Excellent.
so there you go. So Darkness on the Edge of Town. Now, we've talked about timeline on this on many previous shows about what we talk about, and for me personally, I got into Bruce when he became the big phenomenon around the Born in the USA time, around 1984, 1985. So my first experience of this album, I can't even tell you if I heard Born to Run or Darkness first. But after hearing Born in the USA and getting right into it, I had a good friend of mine that we both loved Bruce's work, and we started to buy his back catalogue staggered. We'd figure out amongst the two of us, well, you buy Born to Run, I'll buy Darkness, and we'll be able to hear them both. And so it was around about when I was about 16 when I first got into hear this album first, I would imagine. Prime time of your life, 16, to get into your rock and roll. And just for an album that's really about the hard times for people in the sort of like the heartland of America, it still resonated with me. There was a certain truths in there that, even though I was still not experiencing that place and that time of my life, I could still understand, and I could still sort of associate with and empathize with. So all of the songs on this album definitely leave a mark on my on my rock and roll history and my musical appreciation, I suppose. So yeah, definitely a special album for me as well. But a bit of history on the album. So this is an album that followed a really big hit album and was born out of a bit of sort of like a bad times for them, because Bruce had signed a deal with a manager at the start of his career without really getting into the details of it. And when he found that he had ideas of what he wanted to do for his follow-up to Born to Run, his manager had a lot of control over what the next step of his career would be. And when he looked further into the contract, he realized that he was not in control of his own career and his own decisions to what to do. So it started a protracted legal proceedings between the two of them that went for nearly a year. And the first step, when he tried to sue basically his manager, was that his manager basically stopped him from entering a studio with anyone that he didn't approve of to record. So he was basically at a time where most people would be putting out an album every year and touring behind it. Back in those days, you would tour to promote an album, not so much put out an album to promote your tour. He had basically his first two albums both came out in 1973, and Born to Run came out in 1975. And by the time all of this was over, and a year of courtroom shenanigans, and then a year of recording, his Darkness on the Edge of Town didn't come out until 3 years after Born to Run in 1978. So one of the things that people were expecting, even some of the guys in the band actually were expecting, was that the next album would follow on with the same sort of sound and type of arrangements and instrumentation that he did on his previous album, which was a really big hit. And in the end, Bruce was looking for a different sound and a different overarching feel and message to his new album, and that would mean that it was something that was completely different and surprised a lot of people. So, yeah, Darkness on the Edge of Town definitely has a sound that is what was described. I've been watching the making of documentary earlier today, and what they said was we had a picture in mind that we wanted the sound to convey, and that picture was very stark, very stripped down, and very cinematic, much in the way that Born to Run was a very cinematic album. This was the same, but a lot more muted, a lot more downbeat, and a lot more grounded in the realities of life. Whereas the message of Born to Run throughout its songs, and Born to Run is such a cohesive album and such a narrative running through it, as is Darkness. But the message of Born to Run was something of hope, of trying to break out of where you were, and the whole world's in front of you. And Darkness on the Edge of Town is we tried to break out, and the whole world is on top of you, and the realities of what you had to do to get through that. So yeah, it's definitely a ride from the first song to the last, and not the ride that everybody was expecting to come.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah. Shall I go next, John?
Yeah. So what was? Tell us how you got into it.
I came in. There we are. That's my copy that I bought in 1970 when it came out. Basically, I'd seen a review of it in the NME, the New Musical Express, and it kind of I'd heard Born to Run, the track. I may have heard one or two things else of it, but I hadn't been that grabbed by Born to Run as particularly at that stage. But when I saw the review of this, I thought, well, that sounds like an interesting record. So I trotted off to my local record shop to buy it, and I took it home. Clearly, put it on, and as you say, this is quite odd. I sort of don't really understand quite how this happened to me, but it's a very, as you say, quite an austere album. It's kind of, it's got stripped down. It kind of it's in the same. It has a kind of punk ethic to it, in that kind of, in the stripped down. It's not quite so grandiose as Born to Run. It's much more kind of focused, and the sound is much harder, and found it really attractive. And I think there's something I've always found attractive about Springsteen, that I, even though I'm not a working class person, I don't work in a factory, I can still identify massively with the feelings of that, and the feelings in some of these songs. I was 20 years old, which is what we're talking about. I found it immensely attractive, and I could felt myself being able to identify with the characters in the songs. And as you say, John, they are a development of the Born to Run characters, and that and that kind of drive that he has, and you can feel the kind of, the anguish, anger, pain, whatever those things. I could feel that in his voice, and in the in the guitar playing, particularly on the record. And I found it immensely attractive, and I thought it was a great record, and I still think it's a great record. What is it? Well, bloody nearly 50 years later, it's still probably my favorite Springsteen record by a short head, many of the other ones, but because it's the first one, it has a special place for me. And yeah, it's just, I think the cover's great. I think everything about it is, for me, what I was looking for in an album. You got the lyric sheets to it. It's pretty cool. So, as I say, I've had a relationship with this record ever since it came out. What about you, Andrew?
Just real quick, just one question, just to go on for that before we go to Andrew. Is just did obviously you've gone through his other albums as well. How quickly did you progress to finding, his other albums? I mean, obviously there was at that stage his back catalogue was only 3 before that. And did you keep on, so were you right onto the river when it came out, being the next release? And
yeah. I was.
How did you go back?
Absolutely. Oh well, I mean, because I worked in a record shop soon after that, so I then picked up Born to Run, Greetings, and The Wild Innocent. Picked those up, as you say, there's only 3 before it, so picked those up, and and then by the time The River came round, I was on it, because that's 1981, and I went to see him at Wembley Arena in 1981, which was the first time I've seen him, and it was just probably the best concert I've been to, or it's in the top 3 of concerts I've ever been to. Played for 4 hours, 8 o'clock to 12:15, with a 15-minute break just to get your breath back. But it was astonishing, and I'd never seen a show like it. Not surprisingly, and I'd seen it's a completely different kettle of fish to Led Zeppelin at Earl's Court, for instance. Which is another fantastic concert. But this is a completely different kettle of fish. I don't know how many songs he played, 35 songs, and he's standing on the piano at 12:15 playing Twist and Shout stuff, and I was completely blown away. But one of my views, but he did a Jimmy Cliff song called Trapped. Whoa, trapped. Well, that bit where he sings on his own, and there's just a tiny bit of instrumentation, and then when he sings the chorus, it's massive. The band all come in. And then at the end of it, whoosh,
that's it. It's
like somebody's gone like that. But the fact that you could do it live, you could go from this huge band to like somebody got the volume control and turned it off completely. I was like, how'd you do that? How does that even work? Because it's massive dynamic. But I remember that's particularly success. But that was an amazing concert, and and by then I was kind of fully on board with him as an artist, and I've remained a fan for life, still going. 50 years later, or 40 years later.
Interesting. Hugh's got his comment there saying his first experience with the Bruce album was the live album, and up until that was released, it was always if only we could.
Oh, it's so better, much better live. Yes, yeah. I'd agree with that, but I don't know, Hugh. I just bought an enhanced copy, a 6 CD copy of Live 75 to 85. Some guys have done another 3 CDs that fit in, and he seamlessly fitted them in the things. It's really good, really, really good.
I've got a pretty good idea that I've got the full show of every show that they used to pull a few songs out for that album. I think I got the full show out of all of them.
Yeah.
But we nearly asked Andrew what his experience was with the album, and then I derailed it again for another 15 minutes. Sorry, mate. Tell us your story. No, he's ignoring us now. He's had enough.
I'm not familiar with the album at all. Never owned it.
Oh, right.
Only listened to it probably 4 or maybe 5 times right through in my life.
Sweet.
Prior to us picking it
right.
for the show. Obviously, there's a couple of songs on there that I know, but this might be sacrilegious on this show here, folks. But I'm not a Bruce Springsteen fan.
Fair enough.
You don't have to be. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? That I think that's quite common. I'm the only Bruce, besides you, John. I'm the only Bruce Springsteen fan that I know. None of my friends are Bruce Springsteen's fans. Nobody else I know likes Bruce Springsteen like I like Bruce Springsteen. So you get used to doing things on your own.
I was lucky enough to find a lot of friends through Bruce Springsteen.
That's different. But yeah, none of my school friends, none of my friends from college or university, nobody else really saw anything of him at all. So I think a lot of them are in Andrew's boat. They just never quite got it, or it never appealed to them. And I understand that completely. Weird thing.
Well, that's good actually, because Andrew gives us now a differing perspective and a different viewpoint of like what it's like to hear this album really for the first time. Effectively, only for this week, whereas you and I have lived with it for most of our lives. So
it's no good asking me.
You know, like I was actually looking. I was lucky enough to actually, at one of the shows that I went to a few years back, that he played the whole album in the middle of the show. So I've heard all these 10 songs in order live. And I've heard some of these songs quite a few times live. And, you know, that's also puts a different spin on it as well, because as much as I sit and listen to the album, every time I hear that album, I also hear the times that I heard it live actually at a show, and the times that I've heard those songs on countless bootlegs. So, you know, there's a difference to that.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, like a lot of people, you know, obviously we know the radio songs with Bruce Springsteen. Who doesn't know the radio hits, you know? And I've only ever owned one Bruce Springsteen album in my life, and that was Born to Run in '84 when that came out. I remember buying that album with The Unforgettable Fire by U2. When was that? '84, Born in the USA? When was
Born
that?
in the USA,
85?
84.
Yeah.
So that's the only Bruce Springsteen album I've ever owned.
Oh, well,
I
it'd be
went down the Neil
fascinating
Young
to hear.
track.
Yeah. Hey, can go down that track too. But no, it's interesting. So you're in the sort of boat that I am often on these shows. So, you know, I've not heard an album before this week, so I played it, you know, 10 times kind of thing, and really get under it, you know, trying to work out what it is and stuff, but be more objective about it than me. Which would be fantastic. Morning, Johnny Heartbreaker. No, see, Johnny Heartbreaker's not a Springsteen guy either. See, it's weird, but it's fine. So, shall we get to the rankings, or have you got more to say, John? You want more to say?
No, well, look, the only other thing I was going to bring up, I did say to the guys before we started, I was more interested in speaking about my relationship with the album rather than doing a history lesson on it. The one thing about this album that also differentiated it from its predecessor was the amount of songs that were in the running to be on this album. I mean, back in the day, we were dealing with two sides of vinyl, pretty much a 45-minute to 50-minute time limit on what they could put on. And one of the engineer on the album, Jimmy Iovine, was quoted as saying for Born to Run, they'd recorded 9 songs and 8 of them were on the album. For Darkness on the Edge of Town, they estimated that they did up to 70 songs. And the crazy thing about this, to anyone else, it's not crazy, but it's unbelievable for what most people would do, is the amount of fantastic songs that were available for this album that were given away. Basically, you mentioned Because the Night earlier, and that was, again, a brilliant song. I feel really fits the mood of the album, but again, for the ultimate message that Bruce wanted to put on this album, he saw this as a love song, and he knew he wasn't going to finish it because he didn't feel for himself to be in that frame that he was writing a love song. He felt that he still hadn't got to the point of his career or his abilities to write a love song the way he would want it to be. And he actually gave that out to Patti Smith with only half the lyrics written, and she completed that. And actually, Jimmy Iovine, who was working on Darkness, was also trying to produce that album for Patti. And he, in a conversation with Bruce, said, "I don't have the song that's going to make everybody listen to the album." And he said, "Oh, so you need a single?" And he gave him this song to do. Other songs like Fire, which went to Robert Gordon, and later was done by the Pointer Sisters in the early 80s. Again, another big hit song that he just gave away. Who would do that? There was Talk to Me and Hearts of Stone that went to Southside Johnny and and the Asbury Jukes that were working with Steve Van Zandt. And there was This Little Girl that went to Gary U.S. Bonds. A couple of other songs as well. And then a whole bunch of outtakes, which some were released on the Tracks box set, and then some were released on the on an outtakes album called The Promise, that was all Darkness on the Edge of Town outtakes. And then some songs, great songs, that ended up on The River and ended up on Born in the USA that didn't make this album. But again, Bruce had a particular vision for the story and narrative that he wanted to put across on this. And again, what they said, the picture of the music. And so the 10 songs that were ultimately chosen went straight into that that vision.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah, let's get on to ranking the tracks, I guess. All right. So
yes.
First up, song is Badlands, and it's a great setup for the album. It's a upbeat song musically, but straight away, lyrically, it sets up that the character in the song is not in a good place. They're sort of like struggling to get out of the life that they feel that they're stuck in, and this is a song that I've been lucky enough to hear in 20 out of 22 shows that I've seen. So obviously a very important song that gets played a lot, and it's kind of hard to disassociate being in the middle of a pit and sort of like singing along to a song like this as just a song on an album. So definitely for my experience with it, that sort of really colours my my thoughts of the song. But one of only 3 out of the 10 songs that has a sax solo. Obviously, Clarence Clemens was a big part of the E Street Band and a big part of Bruce's sound, all the way right from his first album. And again, on the documentary, they were talking about how the saxophone being a very urban sounding album and while perfect to be all over Born to Run, didn't quite fit the sound and the message of this album. But the fact that it's only on 3 songs, but until you realize that it's only on 3 songs, you don't notice that it's only on 3 songs. The impressions that it makes on the songs that it does appear on definitely, make their mark. And this was something that originally he had a guitar solo in there, and then when you realize, man, we've hardly got sax on this album, they put it in kind of at the last minute, and it really it's a lift. So the sax solo follows a pretty sort of like stinging guitar solo, and it really just seems to lift it. Really, it's like a downshift. If you've ever like put your car in a second gear just so you can pass that truck, that's exactly what this what it feels like when the sax kicks in. So there's been times where I've sort of heard it too many times, and I thought to myself, oh man, do I really need to hear Badlands again? But I tell you what, man, get on the front rail at a Bruce Springsteen show, and you're got your fist in the air, and you're oohing along with the middle break there. So in the end, this song gets a 9 for me. That's how I feel like at the moment. It's a brilliant tune. As much as you think you don't want to get along with it, it just pulls you in, and it's an anthem, and it's a great opener to this album.
Yeah,
awesome.
I got one of them.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? So what's your score, John? 6
9.
out of 10. 9 out of 10.
9.
Never a
I
spit.
said 9.
Yeah.
Did you? Oh,
It's got to start listening to me.
too busy buzzing in my own head.
Probably.
Yeah.
The itchy back was distracting you, but definitely a 9. I've gone up and down with this song throughout the years, but at the moment, yeah, put it on and I'll be happy to listen to it.
Fantastic.
I know what you mean. It's yes, fantastic. I mean, I think that your point about the sax is that, you know, somebody said that for this album he'd moved from that kind of sort of soul thing, you know, that kind of soul funk, you know, that of the first 3 albums, and even that urban, you know, certainly the first 2 have a lot of kind of like much more sort of funky, you know, Soul Brothers type thing on it, which the sax fits in beautifully. This is like a rock album, and therefore the sax doesn't fit so well into the songs because they're rock songs, you know, very much straight ahead rock songs, and you know, clearly imbued with that punk ethic, that punk, you know, thing that's going on, you know, the singles that he was listening to at the time. But you know, he'd gone for that, you know, that punk thing, economy of language, economy of instrumentation. It's very integrated, all of it, isn't it? You know, there's, you know, you get some solos, but they're normally pretty short, pretty, you know, pretty organized. But you know, the dynamics come from the loud and quiet bits, kind of thing, you know. And as you say, there's a sort of there's a drop down, you know, just to the voice and the piano and the drums, kind of thing, and then it builds back up again to the chorus. And I mean, I think that the first stanza for me, I think she's well known, you know, well, lights out tonight, trouble in the heartland, got a head-on collision course, smashing in my guts, man. I'm caught in a crossfire that I don't understand. That's about his legal position. That's about his legal fight with Mike Appel, you know, and his fight to get control of his music and his songs from Appel. I think it's you know, that you're right, John. Completely sets the tone for the album. That's, you know, but that kind of first stanza is just a great stanza, and it just, you know, I can remember when I first heard it, you know, thrill about those lines, and you know, kind of, you know, you thought, blimey, he's you know, this is about at the crossroads kind of thing, wondering what to do, and you know, I think it's, you know, it has that kind of bitterness of conflict. And I'd say about the solo that you get the guitar solo, then you get the sax solo, and they're almost one, you know. And that's we can come back to that, because that happens every time with the sax. You know, it's joined with the you know, in Promised Land, it's joined with, you know, does guitar solo, sax solo, and whatever the other one is, he does sax solo, guitar solo, harp solo. No, that's Promised Land. Anyway, but always the sax solo is joined to the guitar solo in that way for the 3 songs that Clarence is on. I think it's a great opener. I think it sets the tone for the album. I think it tells you exactly what you're going to get in this album. I think both musically and lyrically, you know, I think there's a toughness there. I think, you know, that there's one of the words that I saw somebody, I think Dave Marr said, the key word in this album is labor. People laboring towards something, you know, pushing towards something, and it's really difficult, you know. And as you said, we're born to run. People are leaving. It's a town full of losers, and I'm pulling out here to win. Which is one of the great couplets of rock and roll ever. But this is not that at all. This is people who've arrived somewhere else and gone, this is hard. So it's
definitely
great opener for me. 10 out of 10. Never a skip. Fantastic opener, Andrew.
Yeah, I think it's a great song. It's a song that I'm familiar with, and it's been on compilations and playlists over the years, John, that I've listened to. I had a friend that had a cover band, and this was one of the songs that they used to play, and it was one that got a good response from people, you know. So definitely a classic Bruce Springsteen song. I like the fact, you know, that you guys have mentioned also, you know, the history of this album. Had no idea that there was a dichotomy between the different albums that he was trying to do as far as set a mental or an image in his mind for people to listen to. So good introduction, guys, and thanks for that. And I think that's going to sort of bear back on me as I give some of my comments and rankings on songs moving forward. But one thing that I always liked about this song is that, you know, it's happy and it's jaunty, but you know that there's something about the happiness that's not quite. This is not really happy. And I think the Rock Professor, you've kind of said it. It's like, you're in the Badlands, and being away as we are here in New Zealand for a long, long time, for 30 or 40 years, when we've looked at America, haven't we, through popular culture, and we've seen America and we've been inundated with it, haven't we, John, with movies and films and novels over the years. You kind of get this image, and this is a song, Simon, that always bore that kind of image in the back of my mind, where, this was a modern day version of, who was that guy, Truman Capote, talking about what was happening in America and sort of painting this landscape. One of the reasons why I think you have to respect Bruce Springsteen, and the fact that you guys are diehard fans, continuing that flame from that point might inspire me to dig a little bit deeper. But great song. I have to agree with Hugh here. It's a classic. It's 10 out of 10, and the Rock Professor as well. It's a 10 out of 10. Great album opener. Great song, John. It's a fantastic song, and the fact that you've heard it 20 odd times live blows me away.
Oh man, blew me away at the time. And like I said, there've been times in my life where I've thought, this is a bit sort of like I can't even describe why I wouldn't be like 100% crazy about it, but I suppose just the wealth of how many favorite other tunes I had. Maybe something's not the worst, but just the least best. But definitely. I think the last few times, and really even just having it pop up on some live things that I'm listening to, I'm thinking to myself, oh man, yeah, there's that bit where it starts the and just before it gets back into that last chorus, and that's dragged out in the in the live arena, and when you're down in the pit, shoulder to shoulder, slammed up against, a sea of bodies, and everybody just in unison is just is echoing that it's not even a chant, but it's just like, just that humming. It's not even lyrics. It's just words. It's just feeling it coming out of a primal part of you, and it's just a release. And so yeah, hearing this song brings me back to that feeling. So definitely, it's something that's not just listening to a song.
The ones who wear a notion deep inside that it ain't no sin to be glad you're alive. It's that's just, to me,
and
brilliant.
I think it's the perfect bridge and transition from that hopefulness that was permeating through Born to Run, and that idea of like, well, whatever this is, we can get out of it and we can get past it, to this is now starting to, we've still got that fire, we're still going to fight it, but they know that they're up against something now. They still think they can beat it maybe at this point, and they don't realize how hard that life is going to come crashing down upon them at yet. But I think it's the first realization at that point where they see that this dream might not come true.
True.
Or certainly won't come true unless we fight for it.
Yeah, you got to work really hard for it to get anything. Yeah.
All right, so we all good with Badlands?
Yes.
That brings us to Adam Raised the Cane. Again, back in the days when I first got into this album, I wasn't really a big fan of this song, and I don't know what changed it for me. I think at the time is hearing some live versions with an extended, guitar intro, pulling it out a bit longer, and really, it's got I wouldn't say like a heavy metal toughness to it, but it's definitely compared to anything that had come before, at least in the recorded pantheon of what Bruce had done. This was probably the heaviest sounding he'd got, and it's again a real statement of again the character in the song not having really his own sins to atone for, but he'd been brought into a history where the world is coming down on him for everything that has come before him. And it's definitely a song that harkens back to what he'd obviously seen with what had gone on in his father's life, and a lot of what his interaction and his history with his father was. He'd seen that his dad had to work hard to get through whatever he had to, and obviously the characters in the song find this perpetuating that as Keith said, don't want to never want to be like Papa, working for the man every night and day, but you find that sometimes you don't have the choice not to. And so it's got the themes of the sins of the father passing down to the children, and is definitely a what's the word? It's sort of like a real fight back against the environment and the situation that the character finds themselves in, and has gone from being sort of like a song that I never really identified with and never really bonded with to being one of my favorites on the album. And I think that as Badlands sets the tone, this song really throws you right into the depths of what this album is about, and the fact that now you see that the dreams that you have are really just out of reach, if not so far out of reach that you can't go for them. So and it's almost definitely a song of destiny, and almost a song of how life can imprison you, and through no fault of your own and through no action of your own, you find yourself that you have to break out of it. So Adam Raised the Cane, for me, I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10. That's 10 out of 10, my score. And
Only
I absolutely, you're asking me today, I absolutely love this song. I would, if I'm making a Springsteen playlist, there's songs on this album that I may not put on, but Adam Raised the Cane pretty much gets a spot each time. This is definitely someone wearing the steel cap boots kicking the door in.
Yeah. Again, I agree with that. I mean, I think the use of there's lots of things to say about this song. The lyrics use the biblical image to explain the relationship between a father and a son. I think this is, something, the theme. We'll investigate this further. It's, because Springsteen had a very bad relationship with his father when he was young. When one of the live things he says there were only two things that were unpopular in my house. One was me, the other was my guitar. It was never Fender guitar, Gibson the guitar. It was always goddamn guitar. Which is and there's you can hear there's lots of stories he tells live of his relationship with his father, which clearly wasn't very good, because he's on a different path. He didn't want to do what his father, as you said, didn't want to do what his father did. He was working in factories and things, and uses the biblical reference, Adam and Eve's rebellious son, who couldn't measure up to the goodness of his brother Abel, so he lured him into a field and killed him and then he's condemned to be a restless wanderer for the rest of his life. But as you say, it's notable for its hard rock sound, absolutely. And apparently he called this an emotionally autobiographical song in the relationship with his own father. And he said, our actual relationship was probably more complicated than how I presented it. Those songs are ways that I spoke to my father at the time, because he didn't speak and we didn't talk very much. Mm-hmm. And you could definitely get that as a thing. The other interesting thing I got was in the Promise, the making of Darkness Owns of Town, Chuck Plotkin describes Springsteen's instructions for how the jarring assault of this song should sound next to the more melodic tunes. Springsteen told Plotkin to think of the movie showing two lovers having a picnic, and the scene cuts to a dead body. The song he said is that body. So there's plenty of meat in this. Is the thing. I think that as you say, it comes straight in with the solo, don't they? As a thing.
Yeah.
And as you say, he stretches it out live into a thing, but a very kind of, you can tell that he's worked on specifically the feel and the vibe. Well, I think all the solos on this, they are quite short, but they're kind of very emotional, very kind of, almost kind of jarring, really, kind of over the top emotional. But they pull you in there because they're that type of solo. They're not kind of melodic, not kind of smooth, and it's like that.
Yeah.
They're huge bends and kind of holding it and stuff. And I think that you've got the first verse with that kind of tense, withheld vocals as he kind of sets it up, and then you've got some real kind of anger and resentment as he goes on into the verses, and then clearly the chorus is a real cry of raised again. It's kind of really heavy and really quite jarring, and then you're into the impassioned kind of angry guitar solo, which is amazing.
Too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the BVs. That's you inherit the sins, you inherit the pain. It's just the way he sings pain is just amazing. It's so and the backing vocals sing the title as for the outro and things. I think it's a deep song. It's got lots of emotion, lots of talking points, lots of lyrical interest. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. One of great song, one of his best. Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan, and thanks you for your guys' rankings. They've given this song 9 out of 10. I'm going to agree with them. I'm going to give them 9. I'm going to give the song 9 out of 10 too. Really pleasantly surprised by the guitar tone and the drums, the intro especially on this song. And I've told you guys before, there's been often when it's just been an intro or a 30-second segment of a guitar playing solo John that's blowing me away. That's going to get, the 10 out of 10 or the Brad score. Really, really surprised. I think it had been at least 30 years since I've heard the song John. So I was blown away because it's not the wall of sound that I had associated myself with Springsteen over the last 30 years. So really blew me away.
And that was a very conscious effort on their part when making this album. They definitely had a very expansive and all enveloping sound on Born to Run. And again, Simon's mentioned the documentary, The Promise the Making of, which I only just watched for the first time for a long time today. So they spent, I forget how long it was, but like a really long time. The bass player was waiting for his call in to come and do everything, and they were just like spending days upon days upon days, just with Max hitting the drum, and they were just trying to find the right sound for the snare. So they were very, very like as stripped down as and sort of like unadorned as this album sounds. It wasn't just like, oh, let's keep it simple and that was it. They were very, very precise in how they wanted to present the sound of this album.
Not going to be like that with Jimmy Iovine if he's been involved in it anyway. He's very meticulous, isn't he? And he's the guy for that. But definitely. What did I give a 9 out of 10? But definitely a track that I'll be listening to Simon more in the future. Next track, John, is Something in the Night.
Something in the Night. Now, Something in the Night, unlike the first two where I've mentioned that I had my ups and downs with them and as to whether I liked them that much or not, Something in the Night from the very first time that I heard it just captured me. It's talk about your stripped down sound. There's a point in this song where it's just a voice and a drum beat and just a kick, and and it's just got a very slow start and some like mournful howling coming up, and it just envelopes up. And I'd have to say, without a doubt, consistently through the years that I've been listening to this album, I can't point to any other song of this album as being my favorite beyond this one. I think it's got such a mood about it, and as much as this whole album, whereas and I keep sort of juxtapositioning Darkness with Born to Run. Born to Run was like the New York streets and the idolized vision that 16-year-old me had of what I thought New York was after watching a whole bunch of movies and You're Welcome Back, Kotter, and whatever else, and other TV shows and movies that are set in New York. But this album's all about being out on the road, and definitely this is a song where the character in the song is just out there, and they're getting to the point now where they see that there's something out there, and they still don't know what it is yet. They know it's something, and as the title would suggest, and definitely this sort of like this album is almost in 3 acts, and the first 3 songs are all about the character making that realization that it's not all roses out there all of a sudden, and the hopes and dreams that they had may be a struggle to get to. But definitely the bit where the whole song, the bridge part comes in where nothing is forgotten or forgiven when it's your last time around, and then the whole thing just stops, and there's just that kick, and then he sings over the top of it, and then they were crushed and dying in the dirt, and then when the band kicks back in again, and there's just that guitar break, and then the couple of hits on the drums, and then back into that howling again. Man, this is just a song that's just got me, and if you ask me what are the things that I like about Bruce's music, this song is a big part of what encapsulates it for me. Now, I know how things go on this show. I'm giving it a 10 because for me, I got to respect mathematics, and if we're marking out of 10, then I'm giving it everything that I can give it, which is a 10. But if I was into this Brad score business, I'd definitely give it a Brad score. But 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, John. It's terrible. Well, yes, it's no good asking me about it, because I completely agree with you. I think it's that start with the piano kind of thing, and that's quite a Bruce thing, isn't it? That piano intro, that kind of that happens. It happens on a lot of tracks start with the piano. I think it befits the fact that he writes a lot on piano, but that thing, Roy Bittan playing the piano, is a particular thing, and you've got that kind of drum roll to bring attention. Then you've just got that heartbeat, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just, to me, that's just like a heartbeat, and he sings, I think it's got a great melody, this song. I think it's a proper song with a melody, chorus with the multi-track vocals in it and stuff, which is just fantastic. And though that kind of drum build, and then the drop down, as you say, just the voice and the drums and things, but as ever, it's the tiny things, and that guitar chord that he just plays just before the bridge, he just picks that guitar chord out, and he says, "Well, nothing is forgotten or forgiven when it's your last time." That thrills me every time I hear it. Just that little guitar chord, just that one bit. It's like, oh man, whoever thought of that of doing that?
Yeah, it's a textbook in dynamics. This song, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant.
And then, you know, at the end, you've just got that kind of whoa, just, you know, wordless vocals over the bass and the piano, back, you know, back to the end kind of thing. Yeah, 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. You know, it's got there's a whole lot in it. You know, in the lyrics and stuff that's just fantastic. Something in the night. Trying to find something. You know, Andrew.
Cheers, guys. Yeah, interesting song. When I first heard it, John, I was immediately drawn to how influential this song must have been. And I listened to it, I think, the second or third time, and then this song came into my mind, Pearl Jam's Black. And I went and listened to Pearl Jam's Black, and I have to tell you, you know, the fact that you're talking about, you know, Springsteen's vocals, you know, and the howling, and it's like, this is where Eddie Vedder got it from, you know, got it from the boss. Wow, blew me away, and I'm sticking with that story.
Yep.
I have to agree with you guys.
Good,
The
yeah.
keyboards are fantastic, and I was surprised to hear that. After the last track, I was surprised to hear we're getting a keyboard intro, and you know, into a song. Simon, it's a point that you like to talk about often. You know, it's that contrast, and you certainly get that. Didn't realise that Bruce wrote a lot of stuff on keys. Thank you for that. And straight away, now in the back of my mind, I'm going, I'm thinking of, yeah, you know, because we know that has a role to play, especially when you read a lot of biographies, John, where guys will tell you that writing a song on a guitar is completely different from writing it on the piano, and how it has a different emphasis on the lyrics as well. So one of the reasons why we like doing this show, isn't it? Because we read and share these facts.
Yeah.
I was blown away by this song. Again, John, I can't remember the last time I heard this. It would have been 30 years ago. So pleasantly surprised. Hugh has decided that a 10 out of 10 from now on is called a John score.
Oh, thank you very much for that. I'm glad to be immortalised in the British Electric Blues score charts.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Even though it's not as big as some other people's scores, it's big to me.
We have Hugh scores, which are 8 million out of
8
10.
million out of 10.
But I'm being serious, guys. I have to give this a John score. Yeah, definitely surprised me nicely. Had a big smile, and then and again to see how influential it is with a band that I could easily identify with. Thank you, John. Next track, brother.
Next track, the fourth, is Candy's Room, and again, this one is a song that doesn't sound like anything Bruce had done before, and really nothing like anything that he's done after. It's starts off with Max furiously hitting the hi-hats, closed hi-hats, and then just like stabs on the piano, and Bruce starts telling us about Candy, and obviously it's inferred in the lyrics that she is a woman of the night, and has
Popular.
Sorry. Oh yes, very very
popular.
Has many men that come to visit her, and probably the closest thing to a love song on the album, because obviously Bruce or the character in the song is obviously wants to be Candy's boy, and this actually song did evolve out of evolved out of two different songs. So the music had a working title of the Fast song, and there was a song called Candy's Boy, which a lot of the lyrics came from, and basically talk about how the character that narrating the song obviously wants to be involved with the girl in question, and obviously she's sort of like given him a bit of a things. Well, the lyrics say, telling him he's got a lot to learn. Again, another song that has got a furious tempo right from the start. Starts off with a very understated vocal, but you can tell that is holding something down, and then it builds and builds, and then there's again that bit where it all comes crashing to a halt. Another screeching guitar solo comes in, and it's just a frantic dash to the end of the song. It's definitely also another song that really fits the overall mood that's presented on this record, it's another one that I'm finding it hard to find a song that I'm giving a low score to here on this album, just because in my personal opinion, which may or may not mean anything to anyone else, it's just so damn good across the board. But I give Candy's Room a 9, and definitely just the whole thing of again, desperation that runs through this album for all the characters that you come across as you listen to it is perfectly encapsulated in the not only the lyrical content but the sound and the instrumentation that they put it across.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, John. It's I think again it's a different thing. We're still another lesson in dynamics in 245, isn't it? As you say, the hi-hat just at the beginning is a kind of sense of urgency, but you've got just the piano and the voice kind of speaks, doesn't it? It's got that spoken bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then when he sings Kiss, the band comes racing in with the race drums, building the tension and stuff, and then it breaks for the chorus into that kind of straight 4/4 thing that Max Weinberg does, and then back to the racing drums for the second verse, and as you say, then the break for the solo. Again, it's that kind of that dynamics that give it real push and give it some, and I think that we've spoken a lot and we're going to speak a lot about. I think the lyrics on this album are just fantastic. They have a kind of darkness but a romantic streak to them. They have a kind of there's some sentiment in there about but it's it's about where people's lives are at particular moments, difficult moments, and the complexities. This is about the complexities. He's got a girlfriend called Candy, and she's very popular with a lot of other people. But there's that. There's a sadness hidden in that pretty face, a sadness all her own, from which no man can keep Candy safe. To me that's just brilliant lyrics. And I kind of fantastically speak out. And I would commend the lyrics to anybody. I mean, they're not poetry. They're definitely song lyrics, but they're really, really good song lyrics. And I think that the influence of John Landau, on this album and on Springsteen's writing and making it simpler and more direct and more, this is the fruits of it really, of that collaboration. And I think that Springsteen and Landau is a collaboration, goes on to this day. He's still his manager. And still has input into albums and what they sound like and how they work things. But
definitely,
again, a fantastic. I love this. 9 out of 10. This is, I know from far as I got to take myself outside and give myself a good talking to, but it's one of my favorite albums ever. So I'm afraid it's a 9 out of 10 for me and never a skip. It's it's one of those ones. Andrew, Dr. Walton.
You're muted, mate.
Sorry, mate. Thank you. I was coughing. I muted myself
cough button
to keep the continuity of the show going. It's a song that I've heard a few times in the past, so I wasn't completely unaware of it, John. Always thought the song was about the urgency of the sexual act, and I think that's probably reflected in the music, and again, it's one of those gifts. The rock professor has mentioned it in the lyrics, you know, and it's about, you know, obviously being concerned about your girlfriend having too many other boyfriends. So, you know, so is the music a reflection then of the rage, internal rage that you've got knowing that this is happening, or is it, you know, because of the connection that obviously two people have? I don't know, but one of the great gifts I think that Springsteen has, besides clearly his lyrics, is being able to interpret that with the music as well. And that was one thing that always struck me about this song. I've given this an 8 out of 10. I probably would have skipped it back in the day, John, because it's a little bit frenetic. It's a little bit, you know, it's, you know, but I get what he's trying to do with that. You know, but the music is part of telling the story, isn't it, Simon? So if it is about that, if it is about the act, the sexual act, or the thought of it, well, maybe it should be a 10 out of 10 then. So I'm going to give it an 8. Never a skip though, John.
Yeah, there'd been times in the past where I, you know, considered like skipping this. I think when we talk about a skip, I find it very hard to sort of like differentiate the times when I'm listening to an album or the times that I'm choosing a bunch of songs to listen to. And admittedly, lately, I don't often listen to an album all the way through. Unfortunately, the modern way that we listen to music these days sort of makes it so easy not to, and just, you know, pick all your favorite songs or just put something on a shuffle or on a rotation. But yeah, definitely when you decide to sit down and listen to Darkness on the Edge of Town, the songs become more than just you know, the sum of the parts, because there's definitely something that makes a lot of sense and creates a different experience to have them go one after the other in order as intended as the story they're telling. So I guess next up we've got Racing in the Street. Now this one of the things that I think there was I saw on the documentary was there was not going to be any backstreets or jungle lands on this record, referring to the long, big, epic songs that you know, found themselves on the previous album. Looking at the track listing here, Racing in the Streets clocks in at nearly 7 minutes at 6:52, amongst a bunch of songs that were all, you know, sort of mostly 3-4 minute songs. You know, definitely under 5, except for one other being Something in the Night. But you know, we were talking about Simon on your previous ranking, talking about things being stripped down and quite, you know, despite the fact that Racing in the Street does go for a long time, in comparison to the other songs, again, no fat anywhere on this record, lyrically, arrangement wise, instrumentation wise, and basically every second of music on this album is you know, essential. And definitely compared to what has come before, this is probably the slowest and quietest song on the album, but really pulls out the theme and the story of this album of the characters, you know, being trapped in their life, and the one thing that they that, you know, that they've got is their association with their car and their hobby and of building the cars and going out racing. It's just, again, sets a beautiful mood, and was the closing track to the side back in the days again when it was two sides to the vinyl record, and something that originally was going to bring up in the intro, but I thought fit better in the discussion once we got into the songs themselves, is definitely a closer of a song, and you see that this is a very balanced album. And one of the things was again spoken about, which I in the reading that I did in preparation for this and in watching the documentary, was the cornerstone songs being the first and last song on both sides of the album being the points of the story where they really wanted to tell, and the songs in the middle fleshing them out in between them. Definitely each song sort of from side one has its balancing act on side two. And this track again, always been a favorite. There's an interesting cover that was done by Roger Taylor from Queen on one of his solo albums, which put this as an up-tempo, more of a rock song.
Wow.
Wasn't a bad version, but it really took away the mood and the atmospheric and cinematic qualities that this track does have. This has again always been a favorite of mine. Very much a fan favorite all up. One of the things I made note of actually, which I forgot to start doing, was I've taken note of how many times I've heard any of these songs in concert. I've been lucky enough to hear this song 4 times. It's been an absolute experience every time I have heard it. And this one is definitely another 10 out of 10 track for me, and one that I have never, ever thought about skipping. And to answer Andrew's question in the chat, the documentary, which I have a copy of here, flaring up in the camera, is called The Promise, the making of Darkness on the Edge of Town. The Promise was a song, again, well known amongst the fans, of a song that was a brilliant song that many people thought should have been on the album, that in the end wasn't.
Cheers, mate.
But
I'll check that out.
yeah, definitely a great watch. Funnily enough, I was amazed when I first saw this how much in studio footage there is on there of them putting this album together. Some of the photos that we're about to see at halftime, that I sent through to you, Andrew, were actually I couldn't find kind of photos that I wanted to find, so I actually took some freeze frames of the trailer off YouTube for this album that showed some clips from the documentary, and yeah, so if we've managed to get your interest back into this album after 30 years, mate, I think that you really would enjoy this doco.
I love music documentaries. I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I'm pissed off I didn't watch it before the show.
Oh man, you know what? The funny thing is, like I've got the like I said, the re-release that happened around the time of one of the anniversaries of the album, and it comes with a reproduction of the famous notebook that Bruce used to work on with everything, and all sorts of things fall out of it, and the documentary was actually part of this. So this was a 3 CD and 3 DVD or Blu-ray set. So you got the remastered Darkness album plus 2 CDs worth of all the outtake songs that was released as The Promise, and also the documentary and a whole bunch of live stuff was included in this as well. And because I didn't want to keep pulling out, because they were all sort of like set in here in little, CDs that would go in a pocket, I've actually taken the discs out, and I had them in jewel cases with my CD collection, which are all boxed up for the past 15 years. So I didn't realize that I actually bought this separately, and I can't remember if I bought it before that came out or if it was only $15 at the shop, and I said, oh well, I'll just buy that or whatever. But yeah, so definitely worth checking out, mate. And yeah, for anyone in the chat or anyone watching the video, this has piqued your interest and you haven't delved into the history of the album before, and you think you might be interested, definitely recommend it.
Definitely. So yeah, it's I mean, you're right, John. This is one of the sort of one of the pillars of this album, isn't it? It's one of his greatest songs. I think. I don't think I find many better songs than this from his canon. It's a slow song, it's a sort of ballads type thing. Springsteen's Dave Marsh in this book here. It's funny. We're getting kind of quite insider. He's obviously got a lot of insider stuff in there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that at the time. But he called the song "The Line of Demarcation Separating Casual Springsteen Fans from the Fanatics," with the former considering it yet another sign of Springsteen's car metaphor obsession taken to an extreme, whilst the latter consider it maybe the best thing Springsteen has to give. I think that's extremely well put by Dave Marsh. I think that's absolutely right. And if you're on my side of the fence, you're in the latter part of it. But again, it starts off with the piano. Again, starts off, just the piano playing. And I think it's clearly written on the piano. And Bruce comes in and sings, the classic "I've got a '69 Chevy with a 396 fuel heads and a hearse on the floor," which as setting the scene. This is a song about guys who go out, racing in the streets, kind of thing, as the title befits. In the second verse, you just got Max Weinberg with the drums just tapping on, just rim shotting, just steady, and then you've got mysterious Danny Frederici coming in on the organ, but kind of it's an integrated sound. A writer called Robert Santelli called "One Beautiful Seamless Sound." I think that's a really good description of it as a thing. And the organ that signals one of the lyrical main points. The narrator divides the world into two types of people: those who give up living, start dying little babies, and those who wash up and go racing in the streets. And I think that's a fantastic, where the characters are. He kind of he gets a girlfriend, apparently one from a protagonist in a race. Not quite sure, that's a bit dubious, but again, and then you've got that kind of ethereal backing vocals, almost hymn-like. I always think, kind of gives it kind of hymn-like quality. When he sings "Tonight, my baby and me, we're going to drive to the sea and wash these sins off our hands," kind of biblical reference, and it's got that hymnal thing to sort of back it up. And it can it concludes with that sort of fugue-like instrumental coda, with Roy Bittan and Danny Frederici's organ just kind of playing, at the end, a beautiful kind of, just a intertwining of playing. And to make 2 points that I discovered, I didn't really realise until it's the last line is a takeoff of Martha and the Vandellas dancing in the street.
Yes.
Summer's here and the time is right for dancing and racing in the street. I hadn't realised that until I started researching this, so that's pretty cool. I think it's cheers, Alan. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you soon. This is a 100 out of 10 for me. It's a Brad score. It's just one of his best songs, and I think it has so much in it that it's just fantastic. So Brad score from me. Andrew.
Cheers, Alan. Thank you for joining us. Look, it's easy to sort of fall into some traps, isn't it, when you listen to some Springsteen songs, if you're a casual observer of his music or a person that's probably not fully aware of what he's trying to commit to. I think one of the good things, though, Simon, is that I'm pretty much aware of what Springsteen's about as far as what he tries to convey, and you can get that. You can get that in a lot of his songs, even the radio songs. But I was quite surprised, actually, when I listened to this, to see again he's talking about one of the greatest things that Americans love talking about, cars, John, and that subculture attached to cars, and so it's been around for a long, long time. How old is this album? So again, you're talking about guys obviously living on the edge of town, living their lives through cars. It's great. It's just it's what every American boy in every small town in America would probably associate with, Simon. So he, one of the great things about the guy is that he can tap into that. But, you know, I'm not going to add much to what you guys have said other than the power of the guy's vocals on this track. Wow, blew me away. You know, and the tapestry of the sounds, again, Simon, that you mentioned, you know, how he integrates, you know, the piano and then with the drums and then the organ, you know, now that, you know, again, it's all smart, clever production, and it's a seamless thing that you're hearing on your headphones. You know, you're not being suddenly jolted by the sounds that you can sometimes get when you listen to great albums. I've given this a 9 out of 10. I think before I listened to it, John, I probably would have given it a 5. But, you know, from my memory of the song, from my memory. But I just, again, I love the songscape, the image, you know, and you know, I think that's all Bruce ever wants to do, isn't it? He wants people to go and have images of their own in their heads. And, yeah, great song. It's not a Brad score. It's not a Hugh score. What did I give it?
9, a paltry 9.
Yeah.
What's chicken's got to do with it?
It's never a skip though. Are we at number 5, or we're going to flip over on the proper side too?
Yeah. So
photos
about the inside too.
Sure.
How we going for time? I know that we've sort of gone a bit longer than what we normally.
That's right. We're fine.
We'll be done.
I mean, I've got all night, but
we'll be done. I know you do. We'll be done in 2 hours.
No worries.
Hold up, bro. So I'm going to fire the photos up for you guys to have a chat about. So here's the cover shot.
Right. So the cover photography was done by a photographer named Frank Stefanko at a house that he recently bought and moved into, and again, the look and the color palette that's through the front. This is the back cover as well. He told Bruce to bring a bunch of different clothes for a different look, and Bruce come up with a bunch of crumpled t-shirts and jeans and jackets in a he said it was a crumpled up paper grocery bag, and I believe they had a bit of hard time getting the colouring right on these photos until they went to a particular place that could do it just right. But again, very much that small town USA. Definitely nice wallpaper there, Hugh. The cabbage roses, as Frank called them, and yeah, there's just that again that starkness and that that just that look of a guy that's there in the middle of small town USA, which is what his vision for the album was.
Reminds me an awful lot of Exile on Main Street. The photos on Exile, and I get the same kind of feeling when I look at these photos that you sent through with Exile, again taken by reputable photographers that know their craft, know exactly what they're trying to do, and wow, they do it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure do. Yeah.
And now this photo is from a trip that Bruce and Stevie Van Zandt took with Eric Miola through Utah. So this was 2 days after Elvis Presley died. They went on this trip. They hired that car, which is a 1965 Ford Galaxy. Very much got a ZD Fairlane look about it, so I absolutely love it. And they went through Utah. Now, Eric Miola, for those that don't know, was the guy that did all the cover shots for Born to Run. So that there is a photo that we're looking at there, that we were looking at there of the Rattlesnake Speedway that's mentioned in an upcoming song. And yeah, so I believe, I don't know if it's one of the next two shots that were taken, possibly that one, or there was one that was similar with, it was actually on the cover of The Promise, where Bruce is sitting on that little crate there next to him, which was originally what they were planning to use for the album cover. I was frantically through this week trying to find confirmation of that, whether it's just something that I heard or something that I've made up in my crazy little mind. But definitely, the shots that were taken by Eric on that trip ended up being used for the cover of the what was released as the documentary, and also the Promise 2 CD release of the outtakes. This is something that I pulled a freeze framed of from the documentary. This is actually Bruce on the piano and Stevie playing with a couple of drumsticks on a folded up blanket or a pillow, singing the song Sherry Darling, which was in, obviously in contention to be on this album, but ultimately ended up on The River, the album following this. And they're having a wild time. So doing this, but again, and this clip is followed up by Roy Bittan saying, "Oh, so this is a cool song. Are we going to use it?" He goes, "Probably not." and again, just goes down to the single vision. Like, how many people would throw away, or not throw away, but really not use some like fantastic songs that they got. Not to say that any songs. There's the stack of tapes of all the songs that we're recording for this album. Again, reputedly 70 separate songs. And there's also a scene in the documentary where John Landau, his manager, was telling Bruce, "Don't open the notebook. You're only going to find more work in there."
It's lovely.
Yeah. So definitely some great look. There's a whole lot of different photos that we could throw up there and make a show of that just in itself from that period. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff happening in the studio. There's a lot of stuff happening out on the road too, while they were waiting for that lawsuit to travel through. Oh, there we go. You got the Promise artwork there.
Well, as Hughes just said, would have made a cool album cover. It does make a cool album cover. Sorry for that.
Yeah. So and again, testament to Bruce's decision making at the time. That album's got a whole bunch of great tracks on it, as does a lot of the outtakes. There's only a couple of outtakes on tracks that are listed as Darkness outtakes, because then a lot of the songs were recut again for The River, and maybe not used on that as well. But definitely, a whole bunch of good tracks, but not as a cohesive and perfectly curated list as what the Darkness on the Edge of Town album turned out to be.
Cool. Appreciate it. All right. And thanks for the photos. Who's saying cool photos as well. But I'm definitely keen, and I'll, we've got 7 weeks of shows to do, so we'll probably do a follow-up, I'm sure, between now and the end of 7 weeks, Simon, of at least another Bruce Springsteen show. So that can be a follow-up of, because I'm quite keen to go and check that documentary out. But anyway, Jono, I'll get you to kick off side 2.
Yep, sure. So we've walked over to our record player, we've flipped over our black disc, and we've dropped the needle on The Promised Land. Again, as I said, very much the 5 songs on side 2 kind of all correspond to their, sort of their track mates on side 1. The Promised Land, again, much like Badlands, is an up-tempo number, starts with you know, a mid-tempo, upbeat, you know, sort of full band kicking in with you know, a couple of hits of the drum and straight into everybody playing along with a Bruce on harmonica. And again, the Promised Land, giving a bit of hope there. Obviously, the protagonists and the characters throughout this album are all going through their hardships in life, but definitely they can see that there's something that they're striving for and something that's on the horizon that if they can get to will be you know, sort of worth the struggle and a reward for their efforts. So again, the lyrics do point towards you know, sort of trials and tribulations to surmount, but have a hopefulness to them that no matter what we have to go through, there's a belief that there will be a reward at the end of it. Again, one of this track's been one that I've had my sort of ups and downs with. Never really sort of not liked the song, but you know, at times I felt it was maybe a bit of an also ran. But one of the great, I mean, I know we're talking about the album and what has been released on it. When Bruce was doing his solo acoustic Tom Joad tour, he would finish the set with a playing this on a 12 string and actually hitting the strings percussively and letting them ring out. And what became sort of like a da 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 song just brought out the weight of the lyrics that are on this song, and ever since then, it's been a song that you know, I've found a very important song and a very important message, and obviously an integral part of this album. I give this song a 9, and yeah, this is this is the song that I've heard the second most times live at 13, and yeah, it's always an anthem at a show, and yeah, we all when we're all hearing it there in the crowd, you know, we all believe in the Promised Land too.
Yes, it starts off, doesn't it? It starts off where racing in the streets leads off, you know, Rattlesnake Speedway in the Utah Desert. I pick up my money and back into town. Is a kind of, to me, there's kind of a continuation of racing in the street, you know, picking up his money from racing in the street as a thing. I think this is, you know, this clearly the title is a reference to Chuck Berry's song "The Promised Land."
Yep.
You know, but a slightly darker version than that. The mighty Chuck. Interesting thing about here is the harmonica is the lead instrument on this. Very much we've not featured at all, but harmonica very much, including a harmonica solo. The thing I think, you know, the theme of it is the being powerless. You know, blow away the dreams that tear you apart, blow away the dreams that break your heart, blow away the dreams that leave you nothing but lost and broken-hearted. Is you know, is a fantastic, and that's kind of where the but he still believes in the Promised Land.
Yeah,
you know, so sort of the hope is the belief in that mythical place, the Promised Land. I just point out, you know, I think there's some nice harmony singing as well in this, but also, as I said earlier, it goes, you know, guitar solo, sax solo, harp solo, but they're all one after the other, kind of, you know, in a sense they make one solo with 3 different instruments, which is an interesting way of doing it, I think, as a dynamic thing. I think we're not mentioned at all really. Gary Tallant's bass line is really good on this track. I think it's, you know, really makes it. I give this a 9 out of 10. It's never been one of my huge favourites. I understand its importance as a song. I understand, you know, you played it on when I went to see him, you know, a week ago. and all of that. But it's never been quite my favourite song. So 9 out of 10 from me, but never a skip. I wouldn't skip it. Andrew.
Yeah, I just want to make a correction, John. I lied to you before. I
Saw
said
the comments.
I only had one Bruce Springsteen album in 1995. I had The Ghost of Tom Joad. I think I listened to that for about 12 months. It's a masterpiece of an album. So thank you for making reference to that because, definitely an album worth checking out. Look, I've always loved this song. A good friend of mine always used to play this song when we used to go to parties. He was a good harmonica player and a good guitar player, and he played this Simon and John very well. And it was a song that I knew, and I was looking forward to listening to, John, when you picked the album because it was a party song. That a lot of people, that I was associating with at least 20 years ago, listened to. Definitely has everything that, all the ingredients that you would associate, I think, with Bruce Springsteen, especially that harp. I just love it. I think it's a great instrument. And I'm assuming he's playing it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'm assuming he's playing it. So, Look, great song. Never a skip, John. 8 out of 10. Itching to watch this documentary, brother. Sorry. Arvin agrees too. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. Going back to the Ghost of Tom Joad album, it's one of those ones that I've had times where I've thought to myself, I could jump this track, jump that track, and that's one album that I'm always been happy just to throw on and listen to all the way through. That's definitely a mood piece as well. Yeah, but back to Darkness and X-Tracks Factory. This one will probably go into my concept of least best. Originally, and you can hear the sort of like a pre-worked version of this. It was originally a song called "Let's Go Tonight," and though the original lyrics did still make a mention of some of the stuff that is in the final song, was less focused on the whole story of having to go in and do your job and just be trapped in that life. For a lot of people at that time in those places, a lot of small towns, basically you were born there, you went to school there, and you knew that when you finished school you were going to get a job at the local factory. And there's a sort of a hopelessness in the feeling of it, where all the dreams of becoming something else are just that, because your destiny is to just be sitting there and walking into that factory and walking out again every day, every night. So it's a song that's again, to that concept, very much sort of like a dirge musically. There's nothing musically exciting about the song, which makes it perfect for that feeling and perfect for the concept that it's putting across. It would be a song that I would never choose. I think I'll just throw Factory on. But its place in this album is integral. And again, where I spoke about how every song on side 1 and 2 is related. Second song on side 1 was Adam Raised the Cane, and again a song of destiny, a song of your life being thrust upon you rather than what you want to make of it. Factory very much fits in that in that mold as well. So as part of this album, I give it an 8. Definitely not my favorite song on the album, but again, I have to call it the least best. It's for the job that it's got in this album. It does it perfectly.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that kind of, just it's quite sparse, isn't it? It's just piano and organ.
Yeah.
A little bit of guitar, but not very much. But it's basically, him singing three verses. I'll just read a sentence from his from Born to Run, his digital autobiography. It says, "The grinding, deafening sound of plastic being cut on an open factory floor. I am standing inches behind my dad, holding a brown paper bag containing his night shift lunch, an egg salad sandwich. I call to him in the din, feel my mouth move, my vocal cords strain, but nothing, no sound. He eventually turns, sees me, mouths a few unheard words, and takes the bag." And I think that's a perfect distillation of what Factory is. Factory gives him life. It takes his hearing and gives him life. There we are. That's a real life thing. I really like this song. I think it has a real soul to it. And I think it's again another song about his relationship with his father, which I think mirrors Adam Raised a Cain.
Yep.
And I think there's definitely a mirroring between side one and side two, John, as you've said. Absolutely
100%.
with that. I think that this is also about, you've had quite an upbeat, bouncy song as Promised Land kind of thing, and you're looking at dynamics of tracks and things. You're looking what's coming next, and I think this works really well as a second track. As a kind of different vibe, a different feel to it. Again, lyrically continuing the theme, of end of the day, factory whistle cries, men walk through these gates with death in their eyes, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's continuing the theme of where we are with these characters and things. And it's so I understand that it's that it's a little short song. I gave it 8.5 out of 10. It is one of my favorites. I just like the melody to it, and actually if you're in the car, it's great for singing harmony to and stuff, and you can do a real harmony line to it, which I'm giving an extra half a point for the ability to harmonise with it nicely. But it is one of my favorite. I do like it a lot, and I would never skip it. But it's probably slightly less than some of the other tracks. So 8.5 for me. Andrew.
Yeah, I love the song. Familiar with it. In fact, in a lifetime ago, I was involved in politics, and one of the things that we would do socially is look for songs that would reflect the political situation that we were involved in, and this was one that was thrust upon us, and certainly one that is undoubtedly Bruce Springsteen in the context of what he's writing about. But at the time, had a huge emphasis on my political outlook, but also my musical outlook at the time, 20 odd years ago, Simon, maybe even a little bit longer, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
A little bit different from the Rolling Stones version of, not version, of Factory Girl. You're actually talking about the workers at the point of production on this song, not about some girl who wants to go and get a little bit after work, But I think this is one of the great things that Bruce Springsteen has in this song, and obviously being the son of a factory worker, he can capture that, and he can encapsulate that in the song by giving it back to his dad, saying, "Hey, I'm singing about your life, Dad." I do understand. I love the song. 9 out of 10, never a skip.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, good.
Cool. So then track 3 on side 2 is Streets of Fire. Again, very much in the vein of Something in the Night on side 1. It's a song of that really the setting and the concept of it is being out there in the street, and the street is not a safe and happy place. Again, it's a song of the struggle that the the narrator of the song finds themselves in, and again, it really has them as being sort of out there on their own in a sense, whether the characters find themselves with other people or not. They're very much sort of need to look after themselves and look after their place that they find themselves in. Very much too with also the structures of the song sort of have that sort of stop start and the guitar solo that comes in halfway through. And this is again another song that has that. There's a famous line in one of the reviews of this album where the reviewer was bemoaning his continuing reference to cars and driving and the street, and saying every time this guy leaves the house, it's a big production. Doesn't he just ever drive down the street for a pack of cigarettes? Yeah, Streets of Fire definitely does, to me, really have the sound of this album. It's one of those songs where there's a few songs. Obviously, the progression of what Bruce did in the following albums, definitely a lot of holdovers from these sessions went on to the River, and there's some songs where you really think, oh, to me, songs like Promised Land, Prove It or Not coming up, and Badlands very much fit the sound and the feel of what the River was, and even to some degree to what Born in the USA was. But Streets of Fire, I don't think I could place on any other Bruce Springsteen album. It's definitely a Darkness on the Edge of Town song. And yeah, it's one that I've always loved, and I'll call this one a 9.
Yep, I agree. I think that it's, to me, is the one song that kind of has not much in the way of hope. I think there's a kind of that lyrically it doesn't have something in the way of hope, does it? There's a kind of this where this character is kind of he is down and out, and kind of it's that thing about Dave Marr says the only real sort of hatred he hears on this record is about when he describes how it feels to be trapped by lies. But he hates the lie, not the liar, if you see what I mean. Which I think is a really interesting point. But that's my other thing. I think it's got some great lyrics in it as well. I love the way that he sings it, and I love the way that that it plays out. And I walk with angels that have no place, so don't look on my face. All those kind of lyrics that I love, and I think is kind of. I mean, clearly they have their antecedents in other things. A bit of Van Morrison, a bit of Dylan, a bit of things, but he does make them uniquely his own. I don't think anybody else really writes lyrics like that, and lyrics in any of these songs that are really like that. So I think, it's again, it's got that kind of dynamic in it, isn't it? Between the Streets of Fire, which is like really big and powerful, and and that organ start at the beginning, and he just sings over the organ. Well, the night's quiet, and you don't care anymore. Fantastic, and so that dynamic within it, and that gut wrenching guitar solo, in the middle, which is fantastic. And those kind of the angry, impassioned, kind of hurt vocals at the end as well. It's a 9 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Another really great song, and I think fits the mood of the album perfectly.
It's definitely the song where the undercurrent of desperation that runs through this album bubbles to the surface.
Yeah, for sure. Mr. Walton.
Yeah, I love this song. Wasn't familiar with it until we were preparing for this show, guys. But I agree. I think the lyrics are outstanding on this. He's turning around saying to this chick or whatever, I'm no liar because I walk the streets of fire. That's all you need to know. That's it. My life is, and it's like, okay, yeah, I dig it. I dig what this guy's saying. What's the old adage, guys? Don't judge me until you've walked in my shoes or something. Or
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of get that emotion. When I listen to this song. I agree with you, Simon. I think it's an interesting song. It's deep, and again, it has that connection of words and simple words. But boy, angels have no place, and don't look at my face. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
I'm. It's a song, John, that I was never familiar with. But I again, I'm going to repeat myself. I'm not surprised that Bruce Springsteen is singing this song. It's what I would expect him to do. I've given this 9 out of 10 too. It's a great song. Love the lyrics.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, number 4 for this side, and the second last song of the album, absolutely showing us that some people's theories of this is where you put the crappy song just does not hold water.
How very dare you?
Oh, I dare, baby. I dare.
It's a great song, isn't it?
Prove it all night.
Ruined.
Oh,
yeah. This theory is now ruined officially.
Oh,
completely.
So there you go. I've got nothing further to say on that subject. But no, Prove It All Night, definitely a classic Bruce tune. The only thing that could ruin your enjoyment of this song is listening to some of the awesome versions from many 1978 or even 77 bootlegs and hear the extended intro, which is like a good 3-4 minutes of just piano and sort of like a bit of a quiet beat behind it, and Bruce absolutely tearing it up on his Telecaster.
Wow.
And
but when he comes in, doesn't he? He like bends this note up, and he just holds it for like about 3 hours. No, but a whole heap of time, doesn't he?
I'm sure Simon and I could do 2 hours just on comparing different versions of the extended 78 intro. But now a great song. Again, going back to its running order, mate, on side 1 as Candy's Room. It is more about while not being a love song per se, definitely to do with the relationship that the song characters find themselves in, and trying to make sense of it all in the life that they find themselves in. And again, the third and final time we get to hear Clarence come in with a sax solo, and in this case we got the sax going then into the guitar solo.
Yeah, beautiful.
And, just to flip the script there, and again just a great rock tune. Definitely an anthem. It's got its little bits of dynamics where it goes into a quiet little bridge there just before it starts to bang, 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 come back straight in. And I don't know what I was thinking. I put down a 9 on my notes, but I've got to give it a 10. Just hearing myself rattle on about it. I'll say that while it did, as some of the other songs on this have been too much of a sort of like a cookie cutter Bruce song for that period, and again something that may be interchangeable with a bunch of River songs. when you take it into its place in this album and how everything balances out, it's just an integral part of this album. It's a fan favorite. Sometimes the mad nut fans like us want to pull out all the deep tracks, and this is definitely not a deep track. It's something that's played often in concert, and it's a well-known song, but it has all the hallmarks of a classic, and definitely an important song for this record.
Yes, most definitely. Yes, most definitely not the weakest song on the album. It's as you said, John. Live, it's a tour de force, and all these ones from 1978. Take your pick, but as you said, they start off with the piano and it's just playing, and he plays for like 2 minutes, don't they? And then he suddenly comes in with that. It's just amazing. But
I was so lucky to see him do that in 2017 or 2014, one of the two. Right, we all went nuts when that happened.
Third song in Cardiff when I saw him.
Oh, there you go. Did he do the extended intro? Is he doing the long intros or not?
No, I don't think he did particularly. No, not in the same way as he did it in the 78 thing. It's a bit more stately than it was then. I think he still does the guitar solo in the middle kind of thing, but he kind of keeps it succinct and stuff. But again, it starts off, and it's got that kind of, that kind of building it up bit, into the, as you say, still a sax solo into the guitar solo this time, other way around, but still the two solos put together. They're not separate, not divided by things. I love the dropout when it's just the voice and the bass drum again. I think that's fantastic, and I think that works really well. It gives it a dynamic difference. I think this is a song that is about, it's got some hope in it, isn't it? This ain't no dream we're living through tonight. Girl, you want it, you take it, you pay the price. But it's there to be taken as a
by this stage of the album, they know that they've got their trials and tribulations to go through, but they've accepted that, and they're not going to let it beat them.
I also think, John, that if you think about that live, that thing about proving it all night, as a band and as a musician, as an artist, that thing, clearly it could have it tattooed on him, couldn't it? I'm going to go out and I'm going to prove it all night, every night. Because that's who I am. So I think there's a bit of there's one level, there's a bit of about him and the band and about going out and playing. So another fantastic 10 out of 10 for me. Never a skip. My God, never a skip. Mr. Walton.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece, isn't it? It's obviously a song that I'm well aware of. Sorry, John, I was going to call you Brad again. John and Simon.
From one looking guy to another, so
yeah, one good-looking bloke to another. Yeah, you guys are all the same, Victorians. It's a masterpiece. Loved hearing it when I first heard it on this album, Simon, in preparation for the show. Thought, wow, this is a great song. Went and checked out the lyrics. I think on the third or fourth time I listened to it. Again, just absolutely fantastic. It's everything you'd expect Bruce to be singing about. I have to agree with you, John. There's no way that the second to last song is a crap song. That theory is completely dead. Completely. 100%. But, listening to this song in preparation for the next song, it's just like, but I'm giving this Prove It All Night. I have to give it a Brad score. Love it.
Woohoo.
I don't know math either, too, folks.
Well, we won't get into that. So then that brings us to the final song of the side, final song of the album, and the title track. The Darkness on the Edge of Town is a very apt way to describe the encapsulating feel and message of this album. Funnily enough, I was just looking here at my reproduction of Bruce's notebook that I mentioned before, and there's some prospective track listings in here. And at one point, actually doesn't appear. So again, the whole thing of like striving to find the perfect balance and the perfect message of the album. No song was guaranteed a place. There's obviously some contenders in there that were always going to be on it, but no one was ever guaranteed a place. They could even, there's a point where in the documentary where Bruce and Steve are talking about, another song. I can't remember if that song's actually specified at that point, but Steve says to him, he's going, okay, but what are you going to throw out? They obviously had their time limit, and Bruce told him, he said, man, we'll find something, he said there's never nothing you can't throw out. So he's forgotten how to speak English all of a sudden. There's a word for it. His dedication to the final whole of the album was more important than any one tune. Again, for the songs that didn't make this record, some absolute bangers. Proves that. But Darkness on the Edge of Town, definitely a fantastic song. Again, that happens so many times in so many of these songs where the first few lines are just sung in a almost conversational, not downbeat, but sort of like sort of restrained way, and then the whole band kicks in behind him, and he just well, if she wants to see me, and that line sort of like shifts the song into the next level. There's definitely each time the final lyric of where he says the darkness on the edge of town, that town gets longer and louder and sort of shouted out with greater intensity each time. Brilliant track. 10 out of 10, perfectly encapsulates the album. Perfect bookend at the end. Again, as we've been saying for all the other songs, it's definitely a side closer in the way that Racing in the Street was. A lot more of a of an actual story in the song, a specific story that acts as a example of what the themes of the album is, rather than a stating of the themes themselves. Absolute classic Bruce song. Can't imagine how he would have ever thought a track listing would have skipped this one, but definitely never a skip when we're listening to the album, and always worth throwing into your playlist or greatest hits collection.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the title track is just. I think that it's about a guy who's been beaten down, but he's resilient, isn't he? He's still going to make a go of it, or whatever. I think that's the thing. The interesting that the three choruses are all different. They've got Darkness on the Edge of Town at the end of them. But chorus 1 is, if she wants to see me, you can tell I'm easily found. Chorus 2 is, till someday they just cut it loose, or let her drag them down, which I think is, one of the central points of this song. You either cut it loose, let it drag you down. And the third one's that kind of classic, the resilience bit. Tonight I'll be on that hill because I can't stop. I'll be on that hill with everything I got. Lives on the line where dreams are found and lost, and I'll be on time and I'll pay the cost for wanting things that can only be found on the darkness on the edge of town. That's just, when he sings that, it just takes my breath away. That as a, as a couplet, as a verse, chorus in this case, it's just fantastic. Again, I think the instrumentation is fantastic. I think it's great piano and organ as well, Danny Frederici. But and the guitar as well, just really sets up the song perfectly. It's a perfect end to the song, and I think it's everything. It's a Brad score for me. It's 100 out of 10. It's a thrill every time I hear it, and I think that his great strength, Bruce Springsteen, is that when he sings, there is a truth in it. He's singing the truth. Whatever, and to be able to take on a character and sing like that, I think is just, the preserve of the very few, where you just believe it. In a way that I believe it. I don't have that about many other singers like that. People who sing in characters and stuff. That's all fine, but I feel like there's a core of truth in it that's him. That you can't disguise really. Yeah, so 100 out of 10 for me, and never ever a skip. Andrew.
Yeah, I have to echo what you just said there, Simon. That's that authenticity. It's a key thing that we like to talk about on this channel, isn't it? We look for it, whether it's in the sound and the tone and the production and the songwriting, and the singing, John. And you definitely get that with Springsteen. It's been years since I've listened to a Springsteen album through and through. So I do appreciate the fact, John, that you've given me that opportunity, because I've just been listening to songs on playlists and on the radio, John. So certainly appreciate the guy for what he is. Knew when I was a young guy, though, Simon, growing up, how important these North American singer-songwriters were. Him, Dylan, Neil Young from Canada. Really important, weren't they? Just really important in being able to present to us things that we were feeling that I couldn't quite articulate maybe back in my life when I was growing up, and even now in my old age. And when you can hear a song like this, and someone's talking about someone having the shit beaten out of them, and they still get up and go to that factory, still get up, pay the bills, go to work every morning, and we can all relate to that, can't we? It's like, I'm not doing this because I love it. Mate, I'm doing this show because I love it, but other things in my life. Do you know what I mean? We're not doing it because, and again, I think this is what Springsteen did, not only for me, but a lot of my mates, especially when Born in the USA came out. It was a perfect album for the mid-1980s. It was the album that you needed to have where you would, it was completely different from what everybody else was singing about. And then you go back and realize, actually, this is what this guy has been singing about his whole career, he's not called the boss. He's not called the boss for nothing. So I think this is the time where the person that comes third has the first opportunity to say what a great album this was. Thank you for picking it. And we've been talking about doing this, John, with you, Simon, and I for a while, about doing, a Springsteen show. So while you were never directly involved in our plans, we had you planned.
Oh, look,
excellent.
I always said that if you ever did, like, really any of the first 7 Springsteen albums without me, I'd be pissed off. Not that I, not that I should, be entitled to a spot or anything like that, but definitely, sort of something that I would love to be involved with, and like I said, if ever I can get on, man, I love the show, and I love being in the chat with our regulars and our friends that we've never met, and I turn up for albums that I've got not much interest in, because I love to hear. I love, again, I've said this before. Music is a well. You bring your bucket and you take whatever you take out of it. And if my favorite album doesn't mean much to you, that's fine. And same for me. But I know what my favorite music does for me, and I like to hear what other people's favorite music does for them.
Sure.
And
yeah,
like you were saying today, sometimes there's stuff that you don't pay much heed to, but someone else's enthusiasm can bring you into it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Even if it's something that I'm not into, I'm not going to say a bad thing about it, because every bit of music is somebody's favorite bit of music.
Sure.
And it's just as important to them.
And I appreciate that. And I appreciate
so
the fact
yeah,
that
man,
you've come on.
I'm always happy to be a part of the show, but definitely there's a few albums that I more so would love to be able to give my 2 cents on as well. And
absolutely. And this is a perfect opportunity, because next week we've got Jim jumping on, and he's going to be doing a show with us. And then we've asked Hugh to come on the week after and pick an album. So John, we'll get you to come on at least one more time, or a couple of times between now and when the Backdoor Man gets back, because we really appreciate it. It doesn't have to be a Springsteen album, your next choice, but we do appreciate it. Your introduction, I have to say, before I pass it on to the Rock Professor to do a sign off, your introduction and your contribution, and Hugh said it, you're a natural, but your contribution to this album was outstanding. Thank you very much, bro. It means a lot to us.
I did do some preparation. I didn't do as much preparation as I wanted to, and I thought that I would wing it more than I probably now realize that I shouldn't have. If I fooled everybody into thinking that it was a good intro, that's cool too. I always thought that I could get by talking about this album with no preparation at all if I had to. But I'm glad I did look into it and find a few things that I'd maybe not known, or a few things that I'd forgotten for a while. But no, definitely. There's more than just Springsteen that I'd love to contribute to the show. But definitely I don't want to sort of like preclude not doing a couple of other important albums out of his catalog for something else. But we can have a chat about that.
Guaranteed. Rock Professor, you got the last word.
You've done fantastically, John. Thank you so much. I think it's I think the thing you forget is, you read a lot of things and stuff goes in by osmosis,
Yeah.
And I think that then it comes out when you're talking about the tracks and things. But from the things but you haven't written it down. It's just I write some things down, and some things clearly I've read the books and listened to the album and stuff, and got some ideas in my head, which I have in my head, and not just I've just written them down, as kind of notes, and they come up, and I think that gives it a better flow. So I think you did absolutely fantastically with the introduction.
And the other thing too is I'd rather have a conversation, and maybe some stuff that you say leads me to come up with things that I wouldn't have otherwise thought to say. And I do not just want to be reading out some notes like this. So, man. No.
So
the important thing about dancing with architecture is not to over choreograph it.
Correct. You got it. You got it, bro. That was a weird comment. So thank you for that. But folks, if you are watching on replay, our friend John ZD351 will be back for at least 2 or 3 more shows. He's going to be in the hot seat.
You have been warned.
Yes, and until the Backdoor Man gets back. But we've got Hugh coming on, not this week. He's going to be next week. No, the week after next week. Jim Wallace, Jazz Thunder 50 is going to be on with us next week. So we do look forward to it. And if you want to come on you know, if you are watching and
Yeah.
and you are a regular in our chat, flick us a message and we'll get you on, and you can pick an album. It's easy peasy. 2.5 hours. We're on time. We got to go. The Rock Professor's going to do a shout out to everybody, and we'll be
off.
back next week, Simon.
Fantastic. Yes, Hugh, looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Fantastic. And Jim next week. Really look forward to that. That's fantastic. Thanks to Hugh, particularly. Lots of comments today. Hugh, Arvin as well has been around.
Thank you, brothers.
John, Ellen as well. Thanks, Ellen, for dropping by. Very nice to see you. Johnny Heartbreaker as well dropped in. Say hi. So thanks, Johnny, for dropping in. Gret Zeppelin as well. Gret and Greg Roberts June, who was out walking. So hope you enjoyed the show, guys. Hope we weren't too gushing. And we'll see you next week for a bit of a Mr. Clapton, I do believe.
Oh, you do Clapton on this channel, do you?
Yeah, only occasionally. You know, he's
When we've got nothing else.
he's not a
better to do.
mainstay. He's not a mainstay of the channel.
Unfortunately, my friend, we've set the goal to do every Clapton album, and that includes some of the bad ones. So, but we'll. It's one of the channel aims, but we'll get there.
Approach with caution. Old sock, I'm looking at you.
Oh.
Anyway,
We'll
I
get
don't know
John
what the
on for
album's
that
like.
one.
It's a terrible
We'll get John
title.
on for that one, eh?
You come on, yes, John.
Which one's that one?
Oh, it's horrible.
Old Sock.
Old
There's a
Sock.
song. There's an album called Old Sock, which frankly I would avoid on the title alone. Never. I don't.
Okay. Oh well, you know that might be me at my iconoclastic best.
Mr. Walton says it's terrible. So we'll see. Well,
yes, well, if the big fans hate it, that's well, I'd be the same for working on a dream, but that's another thing.
I'm going to say again, thank you, John, ZD351. Thank you, brother,
thank you,
for
John.
coming on.
No, guys, the pleasure was all mine, and I've got to thank you for extending your hospitality and allowing me to waffle on about my thoughts and my appreciation of this music. And I can't thank you enough for welcoming me into your little group, and I always feel like you're pumping me up more than I deserve, but I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Well, it's a community. We love to have people onto things. Things they love, things I love too. Take it away, boss man.
Thank you, Brad. If you're watching, if you've
woken up
this far.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Well, don't go anywhere, John. I'll just play the last video. Don't go anywhere.
Where am I going to go?
Until yes, hang around for the green room.
I've got anywhere to go.